Hi, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Atticus says that, he's going to be a long-haired beauty one of these days too, and he thinks that Jerry shouldn't get all the attention. So he thought he would just come and say hello. I've taken to calling him a furry roaster because that's kind of what he looks like. But his long fur is coming in. He's still a baby. And check. Yeah, he says I'm still a baby. All right. All right, off you go. Go find your people. Thank you. Okay. So, it is, I know this stuff. It is January 21st. This is, I guess, sort of the first official day of the impeachment hearings. It's starting today. It's about sorting out the procedures and what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. So basically, this boils down to Mitch McConnell being stubborn and holding his ground and doing, what he normally does, because he's very upfront about saying, I don't care if it's right. It's what I want. It's what I'm going to do. It's about how much I can get away with. I mean, he's been very clear about that. So, that's part of what is going on. Sorry, I have Atticus clung to me here. And of course, then the Democrats saying, whoa. What you're trying to do is just completely wrong, right? It's a sham. You are creating, a trial that has no substance. So that's going on. Okay, so, and they're going to try to sort out this whole thing about, from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till like 1 o'clock in the morning. That's when people can, have their opening statements and stuff. It's kind of ridiculous what's going on. So it'll be interesting to see how this day unfolds. And certainly for sure, there's going to be some fireworks. But as I said in previous readings, don't get sort of whipped up and wound up, because there are surprises to come, and that could very well change the whole dynamic of the actual trial. So let's just take this kind of one day at a time and see how it unfolds. Okay, so I woke up this morning, like I kind of do every morning, and I checked out Victoria Serbo and the astrology for the day thing, because that's what I do. And then I was scrolling through YouTube, and there is a news blog that I check in on once in a while. And they were saying this morning that some more information has been released. And what it shows is that Rod Rosenstein was really, in his own way, working very hard to sabotage the Mueller report. And, there were things that he did simply literally to try to save his own pension and his own job. So, I don't know. Can you blame somebody for that? Yeah, but, everybody has to make a living, right? But what we can blame him for is appearing to be, benign, neutral, right? And ultimately not being. One of the things that they did say this morning was that, in fact, the text messages between Lisa Page and his name has just escaped me, or Struck, however you say it. Those were actually leaked to the press by Rosenstein, which of course gave Trump massive ammunition, because then he was able to say that, look at it's rigged and these people hate me and they don't like me. And okay, so I want to take a little look, see at good old Rod Rosenstein here and find out exactly what's the scoop on that situation. So that's my question. Let's have a look and see what we can get told about that. Come on down. I have a question. All right. So, Rod Rosenstein. Rod Rosenstein, Acting Attorney General of the United States for that critical and crucial period of time. During the Mueller report. What can we find out about that, please? Rosenstein involvement status. Rosenstein involvement status. Rosenstein involvement status. So what I'm trying to figure out is what's actually was going on with him, how involved he was, and his current status. Because you gotta wonder if like everybody else, at some point this isn't going to come back and bite him. So, Rod Rosenstein, what can we find out about you? Okay, so here we go. He really thought that he could sort of represent the government, be the face of the government, be the face of the Department of Justice, because, of course, Sessions was recused. And he really didn't have a problem, sort of, he thought that he could hold the balance. When he started, I think he really thought that he could try to maintain some degree of fairness and balance here. I don't think he necessarily started off with intentions to ultimately end up sabotaging the investigation that he was overseeing, if indeed that is what he did. It certainly looks like there was some information released and behavior going on behind the scenes that definitely slanted things in the favor of the Republican Party. At some point, however, though, he became quite mercenary about it. I mean, it really did boil down to he started looking around at the ruthlessness with which other people were being just eliminated and frankly just destroyed by Trump and ultimately the Republican Party. And so at some point, it really did become about sort of trying to protect himself. And if that meant he had to cover up some underhanded dealings, or he had to perhaps shift the odds in somebody else's favor, so to speak, he was prepared to do that. Yeah, so, this is the thing, right? He was trying to give justice its fair shot, but the other side of it was he was sort of tipping the balance. Now, at some point, more information is going to come out about his role in the Mueller report, how much he was supportive and how much he wasn't supportive. But, let's face facts, right? I mean, there was definitely the impression, the feeling from Mueller towards the end that he had literally been sort of told, wrap this up and get it gone. And then, of course, let us not forget Rod Rosenstein standing on that stage with that blank stare as William Barr stood there and said, yeah, no, you know what? Me and Rod, we agree. There was no obstruction of justice. There was no collusion with Russia. So he definitely played a role in that, and more of that information is going to come out. And frankly, on the heels of that is also going to be information that comes out about exactly how William Barr behaved and how he managed to also twist things at first at least he tried to be subtle, and now he is just blatant, full on, whatever Trump wants, Trump gets. But rest assured, because the law and justice ultimately are going to be evaluating what they see. They're going to be looking around. They're going to be looking at communications. They're going to be looking at the way information was released and how information was handled, and whether it was done in a way that was sort of fair and just. And it's going to end up showing that the White House was so intent on maintaining that Republican stronghold within the White House and within the Senate, that they were prepared to almost do whatever it took to keep the emperor with no clothes on his throne. Because at the bottom of it all, they just wanted power. They just wanted maximum amounts of power so that they could manipulate to the best of their ability the things that they needed and wanted manipulated, like the courts, like who was and who was not investigated. It is, I don't think, looking back on it in hindsight, it's not surprising that at this point in time, the Trump family, and I'm talking about the spawn, right? Trump's spawn, that they were kind of almost completely ignored within the report. You have to start to say, you know what? Okay, wait a minute. That wasn't because they were innocent. That was because Mueller was getting pressure. And who was he getting pressure from? He was getting pressure from Rosenstein to make sure that the kids weren't impacted. And I mean, at the time you could say, well, because Trump's going to go ballistic. And there's no question that he absolutely would have. But it does make you wonder if ultimately they really are any sealed documents behind the scenes. I'm getting the impression that actually what you're going to end up seeing is investigations going on once there is a change in the government administration. And I would not be the slightest bit surprised if the likes of Rod Rosenstein and frankly others like him end up facing, contempt charges, impeachment charges, if they themselves, their roles themselves, are not going to ultimately be under scrutiny, and whether that scrutiny is not going to lead to even more revelations, and in doing that, puts them in some real significant legal or professional jeopardy. So, for right now, it is sort of as if some of this information, it's being released very slowly, but emotional response right now is kind of being kept muted. But there will come a time where more and more of this information is going to be exposed, and that's not going to do so well. So, we're going to have, as the bystanders, as those of us who have been watching this, we're going to get far more clarity on exactly how much maneuvering and covering up and distortion was going on behind the scenes. And ultimately, there is going to be a price to pay for that, right? I mean, ultimately it comes out, and ultimately those people who were working so hard are going to end up in a place, in a position where they're disappointed. They have to walk away. It didn't go well for them. And they're going to start to see sort of the error of their ways as they look backwards in time, and with sort of some clarity, they're going to realize that this is truly a misstep, and that in their own way they contributed significantly to really, in some ways, the weakening and the deterioration of the United States' strength. So now, this also, keep in mind, this whole situation happened because it was time for the United States to recognize that they weren't the best in everything. And there were a lot of areas that needed to be cleaned up and looked at and evaluated. And not the least of that was the rules and the laws and the corruption within the government. A lot of this stuff has to, it needs to be a really good hard look taken of it. However, saying that, there is definitely going to be trouble coming for these people. And as I said, right now, it appears sort of as if emotions are being kept contained about this. But the time is going to come where there is going to be enough information that comes out, and I'm sure, frankly, enough investigations that come out, that there are going to end up a lot of people who are really going to be in a significant amount of trouble going forward. More and more information comes out. That which they tried so desperately to keep secret, to keep hidden, they're going to discover ultimately it comes out. And it's just, once this new government is formed and takes office in 2021, there are going to be so many investigations going on. And I don't see big, long, drawn-out, crazy ones, kind of, like them Benghazi ones. I am seeing a bunch of short, quick investigations going on to a significant number of people along the way. And once the Justice Department turns into something that can be trusted again, they also are going to be, kind of spreading their tentacles and investigating all of the things that have been kept hidden. And as that happens, again, more and more people are going to find themselves in trouble. They thought that they were so clever, and that they could handle the burden of this. That they could carry water for Trump and the administration. He really believed that he could control this. He could contain it. And as time went on, he realized that, in fact, he was a little bit wrong on that. And more he was carrying heavier and heavier loads. And this is the problem with Rosenstein in particular, but I speak broadly about a lot of them. Once Trump has managed to compromise you once, he then really does have the ability to continue to expand the compromise, right? He is able to push forward and continue to use you in the way that he wants to be able to manipulate and use you. I mean, we have seen it happen, right? We've seen it happen now with Rosenstein, with Pompeo, with Barr. Mnuchin, I think I have no hope for him. I think he was a snake way before he met Trump, and okay. But there's a lot of them. Mick Mulvaney, he's another one who you think that you can handle him one way. You think you've got it under control, and before you know it, it spins so completely out of control that you are carrying all of the burdens. And Trump is sitting there with all of the cards in his favor because he now has a way to basically pull these people onto the carpet and say, you're going to do it my way or you're going to be gone. And the reason you're going to do it my way is because you've already done it my way. And so if you were such a pillar of, morals and law, you wouldn't have compromised in the first place. But since you did, guess what? This ball is going to continue to roll and gather. And so that's kind of some of the dynamics that are going on behind the scene there. And I think on some level, people really, really thought that, as I said before, that they really could handle it. They thought that they because they were simply smarter than the man and had more political experience than the man, that they would be able to sort of contain the monster in the White House. But what they discovered is that the monster is ruthless. The monster has no shame. The monster has actually no normal human responses to things. And so what they believed would be a victory for them, and Rod in particular, but this really does encompass a lot of them. They're now looking at, and they're going, wait a minute, you know what, that actually didn't work out not only so well for me, and my name is going to be splashed all over history, but it's not even going to work well for me in the immediate future, because at some point everything comes out, and when that does, I am going to be more and more in jeopardy. All right. So, it is going to take a fair bit of patience. It is going to take understanding that things have got to be done strategically and in a certain way and sequence in order to bring the fall or the correction of some of this behavior. It's going to be a process. Everybody wants things to happen in a big boom. And it doesn't evolve that way. It never evolves that way. Everything kind of unfolds as it needs to and as it should, in part because any sort of really abrupt and significant change creates so much instability, and because of the instability, it creates fear. And the more fear you have, the more entrenched and people become in their positions, and frankly, that then leads to, some real negativity. It leads to violence. It leads to people really kind of overreacting to situations. And I think that that's one of the reasons that over the months, the messages that Spirit has been giving me talks very much about people looking at situations, voting strategically, as opposed to try to implement sweeping changes, because the country has already been in such a state of chaos for 3 years. Not to mention the fact that the investigations, once this thing changes, are really going to create even more upheaval, because these facts need to be figured out and sorted out so that they can be so the situation can be prevented from not happening again. But it's going to be a process, and you just can't blast everything out. That is why the picture that you've been sent is the idea of a big brush sweeping out the White House. You weren't given an image of it being set on fire to purify it. You weren't given an image of, a fire hose being unleashed, right? It's a sweep. It's a gentler motion to get all of the corners, get all of the fluff, and gently shift it out and move it out of the way. So for those people who were involved in all of these backroom dealings, they are definitely going to be experiencing a change of fortune going forward. And frankly, I don't think that it is going to be a pleasant experience for them. Are all of them going to end up in trouble? Are all of them going to end up in jail? No. Are some of them? Yeah, probably. Are some of them going to appear to have escaped almost unscathed? Unfortunately, yeah, there may be a couple of those. But for those people, just remember, karma always balances. It always plays a role in how things unfold in the current and how they unfold in the future. So nobody escapes. Some just appear to escape in a very specific period of time. Yeah. Again, what you're going to find is that a lot of people were behaving the way they were behaving and bowing down to Trump's, wishes and demands, because they were trying to maintain their own sense of security and safety. It was their jobs on the line. It was their pensions on the line. It was their reputations on the line. And the vast majority of people will first do what benefits them and then do what, benefits others. And so at the end, what you're going to see is a lot of people who did the things they did because they, in their own way, were motivated by fear of losing whatever it was that they had, their name, their reputation, their security. And of course, if there's one thing a bully knows, is that if you can get people afraid of you, you have control of the situation. And that is why some of these really almost like crazy alliances have been formed with Trump and other people. It's because what we have discovered is that a significant number of people, whether they be politicians, whether they be heads of state or heads of treasury or heads of justice, really are not, frankly, very strong. And they can, and they have been. And frankly, until Trump leaves office, they will continue to be bullied into submission. But the truth is going to come out. Make no mistake. And there's going to be decisions made about how people should or should not be punished. And there's going to be a lot of investigations and a lot of work going on behind the scenes to try to unearth some of, some of what has been going on. Ultimately, you are again being reassured that the strength of the country, the strength of female investigations, the strength, and it's not only females who are part of this collective female divine energy. It is enlightened males. It is groups of people who come together for the highest good. Sometimes this divine energy is not about a sex as much as it is about the qualities of the divine. And they're very, the female divine is very, very different from the male divine. And frankly, they have very, very different attributes and strengths. So that is the energy that slowly we are moving towards as a planet, as a, countries. So there is going to be that increase of kind of, at some point you kind of got to do what's right first. That has to be at least taken into consideration. And ultimately there is going to be reason to celebrate, because ultimately there is going to be a sense that the rule of law has prevailed and that balance will come to a situation that was really, really unbalanced. Okay, so I can tell you that when I was scrolling this morning and I came across the blog, literally my reaction was, what, wait, what? Because it's like, can it just not get any worse? But as I have said, and I know as a lot of other readers have said, there are so many surprises coming down the pike in the next several months that really it's going to be about paying attention and staying alert and not getting sort of so depleted and so drained and so exhausted that, you're not able to kind of understand the ramifications of new information that is coming out. Okay, so here we go. I guess by the end of this day, we're going to have a bit more clarity on exactly how clown-like, McConnell plans on making this trial. And so I guess we'll connect tomorrow and see what that looks like. All right, so until next time, take care, be well, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.